You know me, SDMT. Let's get it, baby. Big news right here, man. Big news. But before we get to it, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and turn on my notifications, man. Big shout out, man. Drew Brees retired, the legend, man. Shout out Drew Brees. He had a great NFL career. You know what I mean? You look back to that Super Bowl. You can look back to all the great things he did for the city of New Orleans. He was big for the Chargers out here in San Diego as well. So before we get to this topic, I want to, recognize Drew Brees for his great career. You know what I mean? He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. He's the all-time leader in passing yards. At this point, Brady might come back and pass him. And, he has a Super Bowl ring. He's one of the best to do it. We already know. It's Drew Brees. But what the Saints did following his retirement is they gave Taysom Hill kind of a raise. You know what I mean? They gave Taysom Hill a raise, which is crazy. They ended up giving him a 4-year contract worth $140 million. Okay, now, all the years after the first year are voidable. So people are like, oh, it's voidable. It's only be 1 year. It still makes no excuse. Taysom Hill is set to make $16 million next season. $16 million for a gadget player. You know what I mean? He makes more than, Derrick Henry, the best running back in the game. He makes more than a lot more players. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But I want to talk about this contract at first. So what they ended up doing is they fronted some of his base salary into a signing bonus, so they ended up freeing up $7.5 million in cap space. So it was a cap move. You know what I mean? Help their cap, but at the same point, based off what Taysom Hill did last year, they could have just made him restructure and take less money. You know what I mean? Because this is definitely a privilege being exercised. We look at what he did in 8 games. He had 11 touchdowns total, but he only had 4 passing TDs and 2 interceptions. So he had 4 passing touchdowns and 8 starts. He played more than 8 games, you know what I mean? Because Drew Brees got injured. He came in. So at the end of the day, he started 8 games and he only threw 4 touchdowns. That's horrible. That's horrible. The same people that hate on Lamar Jackson, talking about he's a running back and he threw for 20, 30 touchdowns. They hate on, all these athletic quarterbacks. But when it's Taysom Hill, for whatever reason, it's acceptable. It's adequate. 4 touchdowns. So he's averaging probably about 0.5 touchdowns per game and making $16 million. His productivity does not warrant a raise. It does not warrant for him to make $16 million based off what he is. So people want to say, oh, he plays tight end, receiver, corner, safety, and all these things. Yes, he does, but he's not great at any of those things. If he did, he would play those positions. You know what I mean? He's a guy that does it once in a while. He's not an elite tight end. He's not an elite DB. He's not an elite receiver. So for him to make more money than these guys, it makes no sense because he's not even an elite quarterback. He's a guy that who knows where he may be after next season, or what position he may be. You know what I mean? Sean Payton likes him. You know what I mean? He has a relationship with him, and he can find, certain positions and certain times to use him in a specific manner. But outside of maybe the Patriots, it's not too many teams that will take a guy like that, especially when he's not a solid, consistent quarterback. The Saints also re-signed Jameis Winston to a 1-year deal worth $5.5 million. You look at that, Jameis Winston has had a better career than, Taysom Hill. And, he may be the more consistent quarterback overall. But for whatever reason, I do not know why he's making $16 million. He's making 3 times Jameis. And that makes 0 sense. You know what I mean? If we're real, if we're going to keep it real, Taysom Hill was a poor man's Tim Tebow or Kaepernick. No cap. You know what I'm saying? No cap. He can run with the ball and he can throw it some. You know what I mean? He has a strong arm. Tebow had a strong arm. Kaep had a super strong arm. He can run better than both of them. You know what I mean? So all the Kaep haters, you're loving Taysom Hill like he's doing something special. But it's funny, you guys like running quarterbacks now? When did that happen? You know what I mean? I thought running quarterbacks couldn't get it done. You got to get it done in the pocket. Taysom Hill hasn't got it done in the pocket. He definitely doesn't deserve $16 million. We look at some of the quarterbacks, he makes more money than Cam. We talked about that. He makes more money than Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick came in, helped his team win some games, and actually, he was more productive. You know what I mean? He makes more money than Baker, Kyler, Big Ben, Nick Foles, all guys that can play in the pocket and also can win with their arm. So when we look at it, it makes 0 sense for Taysom to make that much money. I'm not hating on people. Oh, you're hating. No, I'm just stating facts. You know what I mean? People want to talk about black players when they make a certain amount of money and they say they get paid overpaid, but it's really not. It's based off your value and what you can do. And you know what I mean? We look at your productivity on the field. Taysom Hill is a cool gadget player. You pay him at most maybe 7 to 10 million. You do not pay him 16 million. That's elite receiver money. You know what I mean? Running backs are trying to get there. Dalvin Cook is more of a factor than Taysom Hill in winning and losing games. So is Derrick Henry. And that's a fact. Why is this guy making 16 million? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's just there's no football sense to it. You know what I mean? He's not that important to that team. If he gets injured, Taysom Hill gets injured, the Saints are going to be fine. They're probably better off with Jameis, to be honest. You know what I mean? If we're being real. When we look at the whole situation, when we look at the whole situation, maybe the Saints are reaching and they're trying to have a bridge quarterback, and maybe going into the next year, they're looking to draft a quarterback, or they go through free agency, or however they do it, because they can avoid these years. But in the same sense, they didn't have to give him a boost and then void the years. They could have just made him take a pay cut, just like players do all the time. You know what I mean? Teams force guys to restructure and take less money. They ended up paying him out some money early, and he ended up losing no money, actually getting some money. So it worked in his favor. They definitely took care of him for whatever reasons, because based off his productivity on the field, he is not a $16 million a year player. When you look at the guys in the NFL that make over $16 million, they're a lot more impactful in winning and losing games. If you're a quarterback throwing for 4 touchdowns in an 8-game period, that's horrible. If Lamar Jackson did that, they would be roasting him. Oh, he's a running back. He's a running back. He can only throw 4 touchdowns in 8 games. You know what I mean? But when it's somebody you relate to, you're going to make an excuse for it. There's no excuse for that productivity. It's horrible. You know what I mean? It's horrible. When we look at the situation, the Saints could have been better off either cutting him, maybe a cap hit, so maybe they already forced him to take less money, and them drafting a quarterback this year, they could have more cap space and been in a better situation. So, I don't understand it. You know what I mean? I don't understand it from a football sense. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, you have a gadget player, but the Patriots have had tons of gadget players, guys that played multiple positions, but none of them made that much money. You know what I mean? You don't do a lot of things to make more money. You do a lot of things so you can be on the field, so you can help your team win games. But that doesn't always mean that you're that valuable, because you're not elite at any of those things. Taysom Hill is not an elite receiver. He's not an elite tight end, and he's not an elite running back. He's not those things. So at the end of the day, you have a creative play caller in Sean Payton that can do little, cool little plays and schemes for him. But at the end of the day, when you make him the guy, he is not as effective and impactful. We saw that last season. Now he's going to get a full season to see what he can do. And now he has to be the starter. You can't have a guy on the bench making $16 million, bring Jameis in, and Jameis beats him in the offseason. Even I don't even know if you can let them have a competition. And he's making 3 times what Jameis is making. That will make no sense. 0 sense. And you can't even make that make sense, because we look at it, Taysom Hill is a poor man's Tebow or Kaep, however you like it, but it's no cap, and that's a wrap. And I'm out on SDMT.